Good morning, and thank you for joining us. We are going to be presenting the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department 2020 end-of-year report. Chief of Police Johnny Jennings will be the one presenting and answering your questions. And following the presentation, to our partners in the room, please hang around, and we're going to be sure to provide you a hard copy of those 2020 end-of-year report statistics. Chief of Police Johnny Jennings.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone being here. First of all, I want to send my thoughts and prayers to what's going on in the U.S. Capitol and those victims, the 4 deaths that have been reported, and prayers for the families of those individuals as well. So I want to start out with just saying goodbye to 2020. It's been a very difficult and challenging year, to say the least. And you know, our department and our community has gone through a lot, both on the professional end as well as personally. So it's been a difficult year that we've been able to do in trying to manage not only some of the reimagining and police reform that we've seen, some of the issues with the pandemic, and things that we've dealt with both professionally as an agency. So unfortunately, there's no playbook for any of this. There's nothing that I can turn to and say, this is how you handle this situation, because a lot of the situations that we've been in have been unprecedented, as well as cumulative, that a lot of these things hit us at once. So, you know, been doing this close to 3 decades, and by far, without a question and without a doubt in my mind, this was the most challenging for law enforcement across the country and for CMPD. However, the good thing is we did embrace those challenges. I think that we have some fine men and women within our organization that accepted the fact that we had to tighten our bootstraps up and get through this, and we still had service to our community that we had to provide. And I think we've done an exceptional job of that. You know, one of the biggest concerns, of course, coming out of 2020 was our violent crime. We saw at this point, there's 122 reported homicides for the year, very close to, or right at where we were in 1993, where we saw the same number, record number. We do hope some of those will come off as we go through with the district attorney review. However, that's still a large number of homicides that we that our detectives had to investigate this year. So the tragic thing about the homicides that we've seen is it dealt with a lot of the young people that we've seen throughout our jurisdiction. So nothing is more frustrating for me as a police chief than to be on a homicide scene or to hear about a homicide where a 15 or 16-year-old has been shot and killed, and then to find out that it was a 15 or 16-year-old that committed the crime. And that's disturbing to me. You know, however, you know, it is encouraging the great work that our men and women in our homicide division have done, have been able to clear out 70% of the homicides that we saw last year. 70% is a good number. It's well above the national average. However, that doesn't bring the lives of these victims back. Nothing will. It's still tragic, but at least it gives some closure to that 70% on the side that we were able to clear those cases. So you have my commitment that we as a department, we're going to continue to focus on violent crimes. We're going to come up with ways, and we're going to try to strategize every way that we can to ensure that we're doing our part to keep those numbers down. You know, we're eager to work with our partners. You know, it's a pleasure to me to see that our city and county officials have determined that have categorized violent crime as a public health crisis within the corridors of opportunity and the violence interrupter programs that you see. I'm looking forward to partnering with that and continuing to partner with that. The investment that the city and the county have made and will continue to make in those programs, I think are going to make a huge difference, and I'm excited to see where we go from that point. So the other work is that we look at is shooting in occupied dwellings. That's been an issue within our department, and probably about over a year ago, we developed a shooting in occupied dwellings task force, which they have done some phenomenal work that I want to highlight here quickly. Last year, in 2020, they made 164 arrests. They seized 118 illegal guns, and 29 of those guns recovered were stolen. So that's just some great work there. And then there were also total department-wide. We made 3,050 violent crime arrests for 2020. Those arrests are up nearly 80. That's 80 more than we saw last year, despite the pandemic and all of the things that we had to endure last year. We still were able to increase those arrests by 80, and that's violent criminals that we've been able to take off the streets. Officers also removed close to 2,300 illegal guns off the streets in our community, 9% more than in 2019. You'll see that in your report as well. I think that's a big thing. We see a lot of our homicides and a lot of our violent crimes that are involving guns. And as we take those illegal guns off the streets, those that should never be in the hands of the individuals that we encounter anyway, I think that's a big plus for us. CMPD responded to 925,000 calls for service. 925,000. 925,000 calls were made to 911 last year in 2020. And officers interacted with community members. We've had 515,000 community contacts with our officers. And so that's a lot of people that we come in contact with, a lot of times that we have to make sure that we're able to have safe outcomes when we have those responses to our citizens. Fewer people, businesses and homes were broken into last year. They had break-ins and house break-ins dropped 30% in 2020. A lot of that, now I can say, is due to the pandemic and COVID, where a lot of people were at home. So it took away part of that crime triangle, the opportunity to break into a house when no one's there. As people worked from home, that can be attributed to the 30% decrease. However, our robberies did drop 8%, which is encouraging as well, and the number of sex assault cases dropped 17%. Quickly, also, I want to highlight our real-time crime center. That is, it's actually a great resource that we have within CMPD, and the investment that we've made in the real-time crime center, that they can assist with crimes as they're occurring through technology that we have here at CMPD. 2,400 investigations were looked at with our real-time crime center in 2020. 1,500 of those addressed were violent crimes. The real-time crime center also assisted in 200 arrests that were made by our officers, and there were 359 stolen cars that were recovered thanks to the work of the real-time crime center. You know, despite some of these encouraging trends, we can't lose focus of what our priorities are. You know, we have to keep repeat violent offenders off the streets, and we have to make sure we have creative ways that we are ensuring that they're not able to victimize the public, the general public, and our citizens out there. So my strategy involves a commitment to violent crime reduction, and through initiatives that we'll also have with our partners in the criminal justice system, including the district attorney as well. So we have some things that we're looking at to make sure we have, that we're exhausting alternative ways towards the lower level criminal activity that we encounter, and focus more on the violent crime that's plaguing our community out there. So we can't always arrest our way out of a situation, and we know that. We know that that over the years, when we've tried to say that we will have a no-tolerance approach and we will arrest people in these areas, we know that doesn't always work. So we're looking at ways of how we can ensure that people are being productive and have alternatives and diversionary programs, particularly an adult diversion program that I'm looking at as well. So we're going to continue to work hard in 2021 to keep our community safe. So it's going to require everyone, and we're looking to dig deep to help understand what's behind a lot of these trends. And it's also encouraging to know that we've seen our community step up. And one of the ways to measure that is through the work of our Crime Stoppers. Our Crime Stoppers had a historical year last year in 2020, despite everything that we've seen within the community and with the pandemic and some of the civil unrest. Crime Stoppers tips topped 3,100 tips through Crime Stoppers last year. That's just phenomenal work and great work that helps our detectives develop leads and solve some of these crimes and cases that we've been talking about. The community tips through Crime Stoppers help us make 150 arrests in 2020. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of cases that we were able to solve as well. Despite the 15% spike in violent crime, overall crime was down by almost 20% last year. I can talk about numbers all day. We can talk stats and crime trends and crime per capita. But the fact of the matter is that we have to make sure that we're being guardians within our profession of law enforcement and that we're keeping our community safe. I do have a couple of officers and highlight a few good things some of our officers have done, starting with Officer Little. I want to recognize that back in June, Officer Little responded to a disturbance call for service involving a drunk suspect who was threatening to shoot people. While driving on Davidson Street, Officer Little heard several shots being fired. She jumped out of her cruiser to stop the suspect who was shooting at a home. After seeing Officer Little, the suspect stopped shooting and began to run away before throwing the pistol into some bushes. Officer Little pursued him on foot and managed to apprehend him without incident. Just some great work right there that probably, these are some of the things, intangibles, that when we talk about saving lives, I think that's a good example, Officer Little's work and dedication to be able to put herself in danger and to stop this violent act that was occurring at the moment. Officer Wiggins. This past October, Metro Division Officer Brian Wiggins spotted a car that had been related to a prior shooting case in West Charlotte. Officer Wiggins conducted a traffic stop and one of the suspects took off on foot. After receiving information from a community member, Officer Wiggins was able to locate the suspect and take him into custody without incident. He also recovered 2 illegal guns that are now off the streets in our community. Officer Versteeg. Detective Charity Versteeg is with our Crimes Against Children unit, and she managed a case involving a child with a history of running away. The girl had been a victim of sexual assault by an older man, and through her persistence, Officer Versteeg's persistence and commitment to the victim, she discovered the victim may have also been involved in human trafficking through social media. The detective acted quickly to preserve all accounts, as well as obtained emergency access to some to protect the victim from further harm. Detective Versteeg acted in the utmost concern for the victim to get her to safety and seek justice. Detective Versteeg's dedication and expeditious investigation practices without a doubt prevented the girl from further harm and exploitation. These are just a few examples of tremendous work of officers that were done in 2020. If I tried to highlight more, I could probably be here for several hours, and you'd get bored with me standing here talking about them. But a lot of the things, a lot of the good work and the good outcomes that our officers do every day don't always make the news. They don't always get the attention that I think they deserve. So some of those things that we do every day, I think, are just marvel at the fact of the commitment that we have within our agency. So when I go on to talk about our work with the community, it's no less impressive with some of the community members and the work that we've done there as well. When I was sworn in as chief, I vowed a commitment to community collaboration, and I think we've been able to get the ball rolling and get a good start on a lot of that. And our community, as I've said before, we get our authority from our citizens, and our citizens are going to and have had a say in how we police their neighborhoods and their communities. So, we began our collaboration from the start. When we talked about the critical role that community members played with our policy updates in 2020. Made several policy updates within our agency. We worked with a lot of different organizations and heard a lot of input from our community to make sure that we continue to be better as a police department. And most instrumental in that was the 8 Can't Wait campaign, which we were one of very few agencies across the country, I think one of 10, that actually met all the criteria through some hard work and dedication and back and forth conversation with the Campaign Zero team and the people that determine if you meet the criteria or not. So very proud of that as well. And, it's just the beginning, though. We still have a lot of work to do. We know that, and we're going to continue to collaborate with the community to make sure that we're a better police agency. One of the critical elements that we're making CMPD is our professional accountability, which you've heard me also talk about. To effectively serve our community, we need to have the trust in the community that we're going to hold ourselves accountable. We're going to do what we can to make sure we're doing the right thing. It's not just a buzzword. It's something that we want to make sure that CMPD has the trust within the community that we're going to hold ourselves accountable and make sure that we're doing the right thing out with our community. So, earning the trust is going to require us to adopt a customer service mentality. That's really big for me, and some of the things that we're doing. We've already begun a process to work on customer service mentality, and I say that with a grain of salt, in that it has a greater meaning to it than just we just want to it's all about how we interact with the public, people that we come in contact with every day, not just the people that we come in contact with because they're having a bad day or they've committed a crime, but how do we come in contact with people to ensure that we're not just encountering and talking with them and their only experience with police is when they need them for an emergency situation. So we're working on that and working with an organization that has done some great customer service training. It's kind of outside the box, so that some of the training that's been done through some of the companies and organizations that are known for their how they treat their customers, and we want to kind of start that. So this is going to be an exciting time as well. It's encouraging also to see that the community members filed 427 commendations for officers in 2020. There were 105 complaints recorded in 2020, and that number is down from 121 in 2019. So we had fewer complaints on external complaints as well, and internal complaints on officers during 2020. 75 of the 105 complaints reported in 2020 were generated internally by fellow officers. So that's part of the professional accountability piece that I'm pushing within our department as well, to see that we've basically had more complaints internally than we have externally. And we only had one officer-involved shooting last year in 2020 compared to 6 officer-involved shootings that occurred in 2019. And 385 reports of use of force, response to resistance incidents in 2020. That's compared to 437 recorded in 2019. So de-escalation and preserving the sanctity of human life is not only captured in our policy and training, it's the foundation of what we're trying to do within our department as well. So as I close out here, serving our community is very important in our mission. However, we have to make sure that as officers we are taking care of ourselves internally as well. We cannot take care of our community if we're not taking care of ourselves. And we are committed to doing this through our employee wellness, one of my core 4 as well. enhancing employee residency incentives to roll out. So we've done that to where we want our officers to live within the jurisdiction they serve. So we've expanded that program not only within the city limits, but also anywhere that's in our jurisdiction. So if you're serving within our jurisdiction and you live within our jurisdiction, officers get a residency incentive for that, and any officers that we hire or move in will get the same. So that's very important as well. And the Employee Resilience Program helps officers with tools to understand their stressors and to be able to deal with talking in small groups and to be able to express their emotions as they're feeling them during particular times of stress within the department. So already, my goal was to kick that off this month. And we were ahead of the game and able to get that kicked off, and we've already had 100 officers that have participated in that program, which is encouraging to me. So also broadening our peer support program. On average, officers, and we have as you know, we have a clinical psychologist on staff here with CMPD as well, who sees about an average of 120 employees a year. So taking that stigma away of understanding when you need assistance and when you need to help, when you need help dealing with any situation, whether it's professionally or personally, we have the availability and the resources for our officers to do that. So what's ahead in 2021? We're going to continue to identify innovative solutions and try to address recruitment and retention challenges. That's important to me, to make sure that we have officers that, people that are interested in becoming police officers, recruiting the right people and keeping the right people here. We also develop work-life balance programs for all of our employees. We're going to allocate funds in the division budgets to help promote activities that maintain positive staff and create a family atmosphere within CMPD. And we identify opportunities to make sure we have competitive pay and benefits so that we can draw those individuals in who are interested in being police officers. We want to be the department of choice when people are looking to start a career in law enforcement. So despite the challenges of 2020, we were able to launch several initiatives and programs that make our community safer. We enhanced our communications capacity, and now community members can text 911. And there's some more information about the text to 911 and the packets that you'll be receiving. That's started out good. We've also created a registering program called the Safe Outcomes Program. That's designed to make sure that if you have a loved one or family member that needs special attention, if the police are going to respond, if there are special circumstances that we need to know about in those responses, that provides an opportunity to register that individual and that address so that when we encounter them, we have that information firsthand. So we also launched the CMPD mobile app. It's state-of-the-art mobile app that puts basically I refer to it as putting our police department in the palm of your hand or in your back pocket on your phone. So a lot of the access and resources that you have within CMPD are on that app. And we also had 3 new divisions come in line in 2020. Central Division, Hickory Grove Division, and Independence Division all moved into their new facilities. This year we bring in University City Division and South Division. They should be ready at some point, and also our de-escalation facility out at the academy that you've heard so much about. With all of the progress and activity that was made in 2020, it's easy to forget some of the other tasks that we've had. For example, the hosting of the 2020 Republican National Convention. That occurred during a pandemic situation. It wasn't the mass event that we were anticipating, but that doesn't take away from the preparation that many of our staff and individuals and officers that did for that, to prepare as if it was going to be the major event that we anticipated. So in closing, we're here to look forward to 2021. I'm proud of the work that we did in 2020. We can't lose momentum at this point. We're going to continue to be intentional and passionate about working with our community and identifying ways that we can better serve. And it's an honor for me to serve as the police chief in this fine city, and I'm looking forward to seeing great things occur as we move forward. So I want to thank everybody for being here, and I guess we'll take a few questions if anyone has any.
I think you covered it all.
I covered a lot, didn't I? Yeah, I've already talked too much. I need some water or something. So.
Oh, yeah, I got something.
Yes.
Do you have the number of domestic violence cases you guys dealt with last? We can get you that offline.
Easily get you that. Yes, I don't have it right here in front of me. So.
Anything specific numbers, guys? Just see me offline, we'll get you what you need. He's not going to have that off the top of his head.
In regards to what happened yesterday at the U.S. Capitol, I know you mentioned it in the beginning, but kind of what were your thoughts when you were seeing that all unfold?
You know, it's always concerning when you see something like that anywhere in the nation. You want to see what that spillover is going to be in your community. So the first thing that I wanted to make sure is that are we prepared for any similar incident, and two, are we hearing anything that we can anticipate any similar? So we got our team together, leadership together, as well as our intel, so that they could report out to us. We feel very confident that at this point there's no indication that Charlotte is under any type of concern for having something similar, but that could change any minute, at the drop of the hat. So we just want to make sure we stay prepared.
Anybody else for Chief Jennings? You gave him a lot today, Chief.
Thank you all. Yeah, that's the longest I've ever had at the podium, that's for sure.
There's some water right there.
Yeah. Oh, is that mine? Oh, thank you. All right. Y'all take care.
Thank you, Chief. And again, before you leave today, our partners in the room, make sure that you grab a booklet that will have a lot of the hard data, again, right there for you in print. Thank you.